Hey everybody, welcome to the Parent Guide. This is some helps and some ideas to get you thinking ahead of time before our next two lessons, which are part 1 and part 2 of If Ye Are Prepared, Ye Shall Not Fear. So these next two lessons are all about why we need to create a safe technology plan in our families, and part 2 is all about walking you through some steps of how to create that, what it should look like, and what resources there are available for parents and families who want to be really intentional about the tech usage in their home. I feel like these next two lessons are probably going to be most appropriate for kids who are probably 10 or older, so maybe just listen through them. None of my lessons are very long, so you could just give them a listen while you're getting ready in the morning, and you can determine who should be there to sit through these discussions and talk about these lessons. You may decide that your whole family needs to be there to sit and talk through it, but that's up to you. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I wanted to share with you why I am so passionate about the importance of making a tech use plan in your family and having some rules and standards in your home. When I was trying to decide when to let my kids have a cell phone, how tablets should be used, how we should be streaming things on our TV. I mean, there's so many things to consider. I want to share with you some of the things that were happening around our family with friends who had kids who are a little bit older than mine, and just with some ward members and neighbors that really had a strong impact on the rules I created for my family. So when I was first thinking about getting a cell phone for my kids, I had a friend who, her son was really good friends with a girl at school who had made a friend with someone she didn't know online, and they were just like chatting all the time on her phone. And it ended up getting to the point where she was going to go meet this girl, and they were going to get to know each other in the real world, and come to find out it was an adult man who was pretending to be someone he wasn't, and it was just an extremely dangerous situation, and that left a huge impact on me. My kids were not ready for learning how to navigate that. The other thing that had a huge impact was the explosion of sexting happening with junior high and high school kids in my neighborhood and in my ward. This wasn't a thing that other people's families were dealing with. This was a thing that was impacting everyone around me. And in the state where I live, if you engage in sexting, so texting pictures of yourself in your underwear or texting pictures of your private parts, and that's being sent out to other people, and you are found with those images on your phone, you are charged as an adult sex offender. What does that mean? That means when you're being stupid and silly and you have no idea how harmful your choices are, those choices will impact you for the rest of your life. Because if you are on the adult sex offender registry, you cannot ever go to your child's school. You cannot ever have children in your home. And there are a host of other rules and regulations about it. But why would you damage your whole future life for one stupid decision that you were too young to understand just how big the implications were going to be for you? And because I let my kids use my phone as their phone before they turn 16, I'm on all the group threads. And yes, it is kind of annoying to have everybody texting me on my phone for my kids, but the advantage of it is that I can see how their friends all text each other. They know it's my phone, but they're junior high kids, they're high school kids, they forget. And it becomes very clear to me the friends who are struggling with doing inappropriate things on their devices, the friends that are struggling with not having a healthy understanding of sexuality or struggling with pornography. And I'm really glad that my kids don't have to navigate that on their own, and we're able to have discussions about it and how they should handle that when they get their phone when they turn 16. I have also seen several families in my neighborhood and ward have their lives completely upended and destroyed by issues with pornography and inappropriate use of what they're doing online, because they never learned self-mastery when they were teenagers, and the damaging effects to their family ending in divorce, sometimes prison time, and the lives of their kids just being completely disrupted and just imploding was so heart-wrenching to watch. It made me realize that as a mom, I could not be lax in this department. We had to have a clearly communicated, high standard set plan for our family moving forward. A couple more that really have hit home. For my day job, I have to take certifications about keeping kids safe, and the stats on human trafficking are just simply staggering. I share a lot of the details from the 2024 reporting we received for our training in my workbook before we talk about sex. And the amount of dangerous activity and risk to our kids when they're engaging in online relationships with people they don't know in real life, either through video games, on their little VR headsets, when they're on their tablets, when they're chatting with people through social media apps. It's not worth the risk. So we have some pretty strict rules that they can only communicate with people that they know in real life on their phones. And if they're playing video games or whatever, it has to be someone they know in real life. And we don't have any social media apps on our phones. And then as I was just observing what was happening when kids were given a cell phone at younger and younger ages outside of my home, there was no need for one. They didn't, until they were driving and they were dating. I mean, was it a little bit more convenient for their parents? Probably, but they were always losing them or just using them to play video games all day long on their phone. It just didn't seem to make sense. So that's why we decided to have our kids not have a phone until they turn 16. I also wanted to share here that over the years when I've had parents come ask me for advice about how to handle their children being exposed to pornography, a high percentage of that exposure has come when their kids were at a sleepover with friends and everybody was on like a tablet or a phone after parents had gone to bed. And we're talking age 7 and above. And it could be with older cousins, it could be just with neighborhood friends. I had a friend who was sexually assaulted at a sleepover in high school, and so I was never allowed to have sleepovers growing up, and my kids aren't allowed to have sleepovers either. That might seem really extreme, but it's just a way we do late nights and game nights, and we find other ways to make sure that my kids get to have a lot of fun social time with their friends. But the risk of exposure to assault, molestation, and pornography, it's just too great for me to be willing to have my kids participate in that. So that's kind of a heavy parent guide. I'm sorry if I freaked you out. I hope I've given you some things to think about in regards to why it's important to have these discussions and these guidelines for our families. I reference some websites, some articles, some books in the upcoming lessons that are all resources that you can use to help your family create your plan for how to use technology wisely. And I have linked those all in the description box. Feel free to read through them and be thinking about how this is going to apply to your particular situation in your family, so that when you all sit down to have that discussion, you're ready to go and you feel well prepared. As always, please reach out to me on the website through the contact page if you have questions or issues you'd like me to discuss here. And you can find my books and resources for everything that I mention in my guidebook and here on this YouTube channel, there on the resources page, there's links to every single thing mentioned there, because I want you to feel empowered and have the information you need to confidently have these discussions with your kids so that they develop healthy sexuality. They know who they are, they know why they're here, they know how to properly use their bodies. All right, I look forward to seeing you in these next 2 lessons. Thank you so much for joining me for this lesson today. You can find a link to all of the healthy sexuality lessons here, along with a link to parent guides. If you found this lesson helpful, please share it with others who it may be useful for. Then head over to the uncommonsensebooks.com website, where you can find my resource page, links to my books, and you can also sign up for my quarterly newsletter. I'll see you at the next one.